share, recipe share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share. Recipe Share, Recipe Share. Share a little recipe with Recipe Share.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Recipe Share, a program on AADL TV where we take a few minutes to talk about recipes in a featured category. Today's category is Spice Showcase. I'm Katie, and as usual, I'm joined by Beth and Elizabeth to tell us about their recipes. So Beth, tell us what you made.
Hey, I went into this category with the intention of using one spice that I don't use very often, and that was sumac. And I have sumac, and I know it's used for a lot of Middle Eastern dishes. You'll see it on fattoush and hummus and so I just made a couple of, like 3 different times. I made a very simple sort of what I call an Israeli salad. It's just like or chopped salad. The first one I made had cucumbers, tomato, garbanzo beans. I had some pickled onions in my fridge, and made that and just used kosher salt, lemon juice, and sumac, like about a teaspoon. And then I took the ingredients to a party and I ended up bringing cannellini beans. Same thing. I was, cucumber, I think parsley, whatever. And then this one, I only sumac. And then, I made it again, lo and behold, with added feta cheese this time. So, I mean, you can't go wrong. And then I did just a little, and here's a picture of the first one I made. I'll show you. But I just looked up sumac so I could have a little info for you. And it's from the cashew family. And it's also oh shoot, I forgot the term they use, a drupe, which is a stone fruit. And turns out it's also known as a lemonade berry because it's tart. That's the what you use it for. And indigenous folks use it for and make a sumac lemonade, which is a kind of like a simple syrup using this sumac and then soda water. So I'm down for that. So I will need to replace my sumac though, just because I also read it's like only good for a year. So that's what I made. I made just a basic salad using sumac many times.
I really like sumac. It's adds such a unique, that tart flavor, I feel like is so good. And whenever I get fattoush from Jerusalem Garden, I always love it, like because they sprinkle it on top and it's so good, and I'm just like, yum. So yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's
So
something. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I guess I'm like the opposite, that I'm very unfamiliar with sumac, right? So I have maybe never used it. I bet I've tasted it because I've eaten at Jerusalem Garden,
Yep.
but I wouldn't be able to pinpoint the flavor. So I'm very interested in especially trying it on the salad that you're describing because I feel it would stand out, and also because I make a very similar salad, but I use oregano in the way that it sounds like you're using sumac. And so I'd be interested to taste the differences between my salad and your salad. So that's all very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, it would change it up a
Yeah.
lot. The reason I end up getting sumac many years ago, when I worked with a lot of childcare providers who were Middle Eastern, and they would always, whenever I would meet with them, they'd always have food for me, or they'd bring food. And so I would see the sumac and they, found out what it was. And so I hope it's not the same sumac I had back then. But anyway, so I dabbled with it, but it's not something I use all the time, and it's really something that is really, really good with cucumbers, I have to say. And whatever else. So get yourself some sumac. So what about you, Elizabeth? What did you end up sharing?
Sure. So I have to pull up my recipe. So this is for roasted cauliflower salad with halloumi and lemon. But I chose this for Spice Showcase because the kind of main part of this is roasted cauliflower that's tossed with some different spices. And those spices are Aleppo pepper and turmeric, which are two things that I don't frequently use. I used to not like to use turmeric because it is such a bright yellow and it really does color everything that, which I think is a little like shocking sometimes. I remember I made rice. I really just used it for the first time, maybe a couple years ago, and I made rice, coconut rice that called for turmeric added, and it was like came out like neon, and I was just like, this is a little unsettling. So I don't frequently use it, but I see it often called for. So I wanted to challenge myself to use, similar to Beth, my jar that I have. And this turned out really well. So basically, you heat the oven to 425 degrees. You have a large head of cauliflower that you've cut into, the little like heads or into just chunks. And you toss it with olive oil, Aleppo pepper, turmeric, salt, and pepper. And then you transfer it to a baking sheet and roast it until it's kind of browned in some spots for 20 to 25 minutes. And then meanwhile, you're making a vinaigrette of a minced shallot. It said preserved lemon. Beth, I know you have done this. I didn't have preserved lemon, so regular lemon was fine. So you're very thinly slicing that. Vinegar and honey, olive oil, salt, and pepper. It also called for raisins. I cannot stand raisins, so I left those out. I was like, absolutely not. But raisins. And then you use halloumi, which I know I've talked about before, which is like kind of like good like grilling or baking cheese because it retains its shape. Like it gets crispy rather than melting everywhere, which is really cool. So you have a block of halloumi, you cut it into cubes, you pat it dry. The recipe suggested putting it in a skillet, but I actually just threw it in with the cauliflower for the last 10 minutes because I was like, I don't need another dish. And that worked great. So I was really glad I did that. So about 15-ish minutes into the cauliflower, I took it out, mixed it all up, added the halloumi in, and just did that. So then you have some arugula. You toss that with kind of half the vinaigrette until it's lightly coated. And then you also have an avocado that you've diced up. So then to serve, you plate it with like the arugula, and then you top it with the cauliflower and halloumi and avocado, and you're supposed to drizzle it with the remaining vinaigrette. It also said to sprinkle with parsley. I think I might have skipped that step because I was like, there's a lot going on already. And it was really good. The cauliflower was delicious. I can't really tell. Like, I'm not sure what flavor turmeric adds. Like, I still struggle to like quite extract what it's like adding. But it was good. And the Aleppo was also, it gave it some kick, which was nice. And I served this to my friend who loved it and was like, this is amazing. And it sounded kind of complicated, but it really wasn't. Like the cauliflower and halloumi are just in the oven. You make the vinaigrette, the arugula and avocado, like that's pretty much it. So I would definitely gonna make this again. I'm excited that and actually in this recipe, the little bit of like yellow that the turmeric gave the cauliflower kind of was nice. So I think I'm recovering from my kind of like horror of that. And it was really good. I do have a photo here that of it plated, and yeah, it's on the list. I need to just remember to make it, and that's it. And also, sometimes I have trouble finding halloumi. So like Kroger does not have it, so I had to go to Arbor Farms, but I think Sparrow Market in Carytown has it, probably Whole Foods, but some of the like Kroger, Meyer don't always have it. So that's just my one tip if you're gonna make this. And yeah, that was my recipe featuring turmeric.
Well, it sounds really good.
Yeah, it really
like
does.
I love the combination of spices. I'm a turmeric fan, so love that. And I have Aleppo pepper as well, but I rarely use it. It's just one of those things that's like sitting there. I know I have it. So this would be a really good excuse to use it. And I've been making a lot of cauliflower sides lately. So this is just like checking a lot of boxes for me. And also that I have yet to cook with halloumi. And yes, you've talked about it before, and I'm like, I should do this. And every time I see it, I'm like, I should do this. And I love the fact that you put the cheese right on the sheet with the cauliflower. That just seems like it would make it so easy. And I honestly feel like you could stop there and like just make it a side. Do you think, like, without the arugula and the avocado? Like, it's just
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds really good, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Totally. Turmeric has really good properties for, and I'm not remembering the key one since I'm not a nutritionist, but it does, oh, what is it called when it, anyway,
Well, I see it sometimes.
Anti-inflammatory, I think.
inflammatory, that's the
Right?
word.
Like you drink
Anti-inflammatory.
tea, and it's very good for that. I know.
And I see it sometimes in like juices. It's like
Yes.
turmeric ginger. And I'm like, what? So I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, Katie, what do you think? Like, what is the taste that you extract
Well,
from it?
I don't know that it really has, okay, I'm looking it up. It's
It's hard to
warm,
pinpoint
bitter,
for me,
black
right?
pepper-like.
Yeah, it's a
Warm-
little peppery, but I do usually put it with lemon. So I'm like, oh, it tastes lemony, but I don't
think-
usually eat it alone.
And
Yeah.
it's turmeric that they put in curry. Curry is, anyway, just, a mix of other things, but
Right.
I do throw it in smoothies.
Okay.
But then it turns, if there's something green, it turns it brown, so.
Yeah, you gotta be careful of that
But
color.
it's so good for you. So and I think it makes cauliflower look really pretty.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was pretty. So
Yeah. One other thing though about the way you use the halloumi, I remember recently seeing a salad and it used halloumi crouton. So it's kind of the same idea.
yeah, it'll
thought
get
that-
really crispy.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'd like to try that. That'd be a good way for you to try it, Katie.
This time I'm gonna do it.
Okay, Katie, what is your spice showcase?
All right, so the recipe that I chose is for pan-seared shrimp with pistachios, cumin, and parsley. And this is from a book, The Complete Small Plates Cookbook, that I checked out from the library. This is by America's Test Kitchen, which is one of my favorite groups of people to make recipes. I highly recommend this book. I had to give it back to the library, so I don't have it, but it's really, really good. Okay, so you take 1.5 pounds of extra large shrimp that's peeled, deveined, and tails removed. And you just toss them in a bowl with some salt for like 15-30 minutes. Let that sit while you're making your other stuff. So you combine your spice mixture, which is garlic, cumin, paprika, cayenne, and salt. And I've actually made this several times now. And the first time I made it, it was too salty for me. So the next couple times I omitted the salt in this step completely, and it was perfect. So I just leave out the salt there. So then you pat your shrimp dry with paper towels and you add a teaspoon of oil and sugar to the shrimp and toss that to coat. And then you add your shrimp to a cold nonstick skillet and you just cook it on high for like 2-3 minutes until you get a little pink on one side. And then you have to very quickly, then you remove the skillet from the heat and then you very quickly turn all of your shrimps over and let them sit for another 2 minutes off the heat. And they're just going to kind of sear in the residual heat on the pan. And then you take them off and put them in a plate. Then you add another teaspoon of oil to your skillet and then you add your spice mixture and you're actually going to cook the spice mixture for about 30 seconds until that gets fragrant. And then you remove that from the heat. And then you put your shrimp all back in your skillet and you add cilantro, parsley, lemon juice, stir that all together, toss and combine, and then you put it on a platter and you sprinkle with toasted and chopped pistachios and then you serve it. And so this is a big platter of shrimp, if you were making it for a bunch of people, but I was just making this for myself. And so when I was having it for lunch, I was just putting it over top of some rice. And it was just really lovely with the spices sort of transferring to the rice. And if you're a big fan of cumin like I am, this is the recipe for you. This was the cumin showcase. Like, it really came through here. You could taste it in the shrimp, and I really, really liked it.
That sounds so good and easy. I love shrimp because it's just so quick
Yeah.
to cook. And I think it's really interesting to put the spices in and kind of bloom them a little bit, because I feel like usually if you're cooking chicken or shrimp or whatever, you just toss it all together and kind of like throw it in together. So that's cool. That's a kind of different technique that I bet is just really good.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that technique for the shrimp either, to turn it off and move it. I mean,
Yeah.
turn off the heat and flip it. But yeah, both of them were, I mean, all aspects of it sounded really yummy, and thanks for sharing.
I really appreciated the detailed instructions on like cooking the shrimp and how to take it off and on stuff, because I am a little bit intimidated with shrimp and I don't want to overcook it and stuff like that. So it was just super nice to have that sort of spelled out for you.
I like how this could be great at a party with like people would like, stick a toothpick in and just grab it, but you could also throw it in tacos over rice. Like you said, it seems pretty versatile, which is awesome.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we want to thank everybody for watching Recipe Share, and be sure to click the link below to look at the event page on aadl.org to find the recipes we talked about and to share your own in the comments. Join us next time when we'll be discussing the Happy Sandwich. We're looking forward to seeing what you've been making, so thanks for sharing.
Recipe Share, Recipe Share, share a little recipe